Hi folks, I'm Donna DeRienne. Some of you may remember me from my TV program, The American ReEvolution, on public access TV out of Woodstock, New York. Well, whether you remember me or not, I'm here to talk to you about something really important. We're calling this Revolution or ReEvolution 2012. Folks, we got a lot going on in this country right now. And y'all are probably looking at me going, is that woman wearing war paint? No, it's anti-war paint. And then you're saying to yourselves, she seems a little squirrely. Well, no, he's a little squirrely. And his name is Squirmels, and he's my pal. I've been raising him up since he was 3 weeks old. He's been living in my house with 2 dogs, believe it or not. And if I can create an environment that will make it so that this little critter can live with 2 dogs that lived to chase and try to kill a squirrel, I think I can help create an environment in this country where we can all live with our government and not worry about them killing us. Listen, the ReEvolution, this is a whole revolutionary thought. I mean, isn't it a revolutionary thought to be able to have things changed in the country without any shots ever being fired? That's what I'm talking about. You see, revolution is always uncertain and always certainly bloody. But now, revolution, on the other hand, that's something you can track with a certainty if you've tracked the progress of it. And it's always certainly never bloody and always progressive. Now, back when our forefathers wrote down the Declaration of Independence, they had this to say: when in the course of humane events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth a separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. Then they went on to say that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to those ends, it is the right of the people, albeit the responsibility of the people, to alter and or to abolish it, and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Well, I don't know about you, but I do realize that the government form we've got out here today is not affecting my happiness or my safety. Matter of fact, a lot of talk's going on that this government means to be killing a number of us. I don't think that that's something we should ever even have to consider. We should never be worrying about what those FEMA camps are for. And that's the truth. Now, I put some forethought into this, and I went ahead and I put some of these words that I think down on paper in a more cohesive manner than me just throwing them out to you here. And I'd like you to hear them and give them deep consideration, please. Having worked and lived with my fellow citizens on Main Street, Anytown, USA, I put the opinions and the concerns of the Americans that I spoke with together with thoughts and concerns of my own, and I took pen to paper. One day, early in 2006, in the reckoning of what I recognized as a trend towards spiraling downhill economy that turned into today's current crisis, it occurred to me that America required basically primal therapy, a rebirthing of our nation, a re-evolution, if you will. Since the days of Tricky Dicky, the nickname that Richard Nixon earned in the Watergate scandals, We have, as a nation, been clearly shown no one individual has the integrity, morality, or rational ability to make discretionary decisions in the interests of the massive population of these United States. One might even argue that with the signing of the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, Woodrow Wilson had already done that. If you examine every foreign war that the U.S. has ever been involved in, you will find our involvement had a basis in banking interests, cloaked in a desire to make the world a better place through democracy. Once a system is mired down with inertia, it will require revolutionary change in order to adapt to a changing environment. We have been witness to many incidences in our recent history where change was avoided or the wrong kind of change was implemented in our country. Change is often avoided by humans because it causes people to feel bad about themselves. Well, that's self-evident. It can also create confusion and unpredictability. It can create loss or a sense of loss, and it can generate interpersonal conflicts. So these are the reasons why people generally avoid change. Yet our countrymen are calling out and taking to the streets demanding change. This in itself speaks loudly about how widespread and deep-rooted the problems are. They're not only willing to face the difficulties it may bring on, but they are welcoming it in the face of what they have been toiling through day to day. The recent Occupy movements throughout the country attest to the vast numbers of society that feel this way. Many would-be supporters of this movement cite their skepticism of the Occupy movement based on the fractured or scattered concerns and interests expressed by it. However, as difficult as it seems to some to see what this movement's main interest is, it seems easy to see that the cohesive sentiment expressed is they desire to not only see but enact or plant the seed for widespread and deep-rooted change. This is where revolutionary change is required. Isn't it a revolutionary thought, as I said, to enact such a change without shots being fired? To combine the qualities of revolution, which are sudden, sweeping, and swift action, with the qualities of evolution, which are linear, sequential, and symptomatic, to gradually bring about the desired effect. This would show efficacy. This is why I call for re-evolution. Revolution is certainly known to be bloody and always uncertain. What we know of evolution, it is predictable if it is accurately traced and recorded, without blood ever being wasted. This change is as necessary as our life's blood for existence. Even if in doing so it affects some of our daily living in unforeseen, unanticipated, or misunderstood ways that lead to unintended second and third generation effects. Because that is, after all, how this nation developed in the first place, isn't it? Some changes may be difficult to accept. Others will be gladly welcomed in general by the general population. Our current administration aligned themselves during the 2008 campaign with a call for change, offering the voting public change you can believe in. Yeah. Well, what they did was prey upon the people's desire to believe in change coming tomorrow as they needed it yesterday. The change that was forthcoming was by no means called for or necessary. We were told the reason we were sold down the river, which by the way was polluted by big businesses, was because the banking and loan industry as well as the car makers were too big to fail. Yet they failed to show officiousness on their part. This administration further showed us where their concerns were aligned by keeping us embroiled in a war in the Middle East, as well as setting us further back in our economy, by taking us further into debt and entrenching us further in the Middle Eastern conflict. I've lost my music. This stuff happens. Oh, there it is. And that's what I'm calling for. The people to realize that the only power that the government has is that which you lend. Take it back again and take it with interest, people. We're calling for constitutional convention. That is what is necessary in this country in order to put it straight. Tear it all down and create a new order of things. There is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, and more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. This is a quote by Machiavelli. Again, I've lost my music. And there it is, just when I need it. We will be given what we needed by God, believe me. This country, it was created on those inalienable rights that we are given by our Creator, or our God. When in the course of such despotic and inhumane events as we, the current population, have witnessed and been subject to, it becomes necessary for a nation of people to become united, bound by a common concern to evolve beyond and dissolve, if necessary, the political bonds which have held them back. Bound to a decree that they have found to be detrimental to the natural evolutionary process, one that is unmolested by human greed, so as to afford them the ability to attain these self-evident rights endowed upon them by their Creator. It is their right, their responsibility to future generations, and to ensure the future of America to do so. Those rights that have so long been upheld and shall remain the cornerstone of our great nation guarantee them that the people of this nation have had them bestowed upon them by their Creator, and therefore are unalienable rights. These rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is indisputable and indubitable. It is also the right and responsibility of the American citizens of this republic to align their allegiance not with the current government, that which represents a despotic regime, but with that which governs the thinking and the principal basis of the nation that they thought to have pledged allegiance to from the time they knew to cross hand over heart and swear, I care to uphold and defend these principles of its origin for myself, my family, and other future citizens of these United States of America and her future. This nation, these United States of America, was founded upon the principle that all men are created equal, and that they are equally endowed with the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So it was that which governed an unimaginable union of people and was born into a nation, one that was born of the most valuable and undeniable right the citizens hold, the right to revolt when under despotic governance, and also to alter and abolish in part or in whole a governing system which does not uphold these principles in whole, but instead in part works to denigrate and decimate these principles, trying to tear apart a cohesiveness which would carry its people, the citizens of these United States, through an American millennium re-evolution. After availing ourselves for a prudent period of time to examine the resulting reaction of the course of action taken by our current administration to purportedly alter the course of destruction the American people and their economy has suffered at the hands of the Federal Reserve, we should find that we have sufficient cause for such action. At this time, to employ such extreme action is justified, as the evidence looms large in front of our eyes. We as a nation have applied much prudent deliberation and are at the brink of what those great thinking minds, such as Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, foresaw and applied with foresight as they sat those many nights penning the American Declaration of Independence. It is now time that we apply the thought they left behind to alter and or abolish it, and to institute new government laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Them being us, the U.S. people, not the government, not the lobbyists, not the Federal Reserve, not the banking industry, nor the conglomerate corporations of the United States or those abroad, and certainly not the United Nations, but of the people, for the people, and by the people. In today's world, were we to try to have a revolution, we would lose so many people that we might not likely be able to come about with a country left if we were to win it. I highly doubt, with the amount of power, money, and arms that the Federal Reserve has at their disposal, that they would do anything more or less than just dispose of us, giving them exactly the opportunity they wish for. We are calling at the American Patriot Party for constitutional convention. We call for this constitutional convention because it is the right of the people to convene one. And conveniently, since we are the people who have the power, actually, that lend it to government, we can take it back, again, as I said, with interest. And this time, when we convene Constitutional Convention, we will elect the delegates that go. It will not be anyone who has any position in government at this time. If you've been working for the government up till now, you'll never be allowed to again once the people take control, because you're all complicit. You've all sold your souls to the devil. We no longer want to be ruled by that kind of regime. We, the people of these United States, call upon our rights from God. So where would we want to be ruled by the devil? When we go ahead and we go forward with this nation's evolutionary end, we will, my friends, abolish the Federal Reserve. And let me tell you, people, if you don't know it, not only have you the right to do it, but at this time, you have a rightful lawsuit for every man, woman, and child in this United States born between the years 1913 and 2012. Yes, that's right. It's basically been a 100-year war we have been fighting with the Federal Reserve for control of our nation and our nation's economy once again. And we're not giving up this time. It's time for it to end. Not only do we intend to institute lawsuit because the Federal Reserve is charged with 5 responsibilities which they must uphold in order to be the central bank of these United States of America. And believe you me, when they're laid out in front of you, you will see they did not uphold one of them, let alone the 5 of them. So we now have a right to remove them from our country forthwith and to institute your government, to institute the central bank of the United States, thank you very much, that we've had all along, the United States Treasury. We have as much reserves as the Federal Reserve in this country that we can create debt upon. Now, once we abolish, the Federal Reserve, the next step is to alter. And what we're going to do is we're going to no longer need the IRS to collect revenues for the Federal Reserve. We're going to need them to go ahead and show revenues from internal holdings of these United States of America. And that would be the best purpose for which they would be to serve. It is, after all, the internal revenue system, right? Now, we have for far too long been dragged around this world by the UN and the Federal Reserve behind their interests, not behind any interests of the American people. Do you really believe that a bunch of terrorists came here and brought down the World Trade Centers? Oh, come on! Our government is so powerful. How could they not have stopped it if they hadn't been the ones to start it? Truth be told. Now, there are many issues here in this country, and this is just one of them. Are you really ready to go out on November 6th and vote for the best of the worst? Do you not think that both of those candidates were chosen for you because both of those candidates will do the bidding of the Federal Reserve? And that's why they're there. Not to serve the people, not to serve the public, not to serve the United States of America's interests, but to serve the interests of the Federal Reserve. And that's why we have them. I call out to all my brother truck drivers out there. It's time. It's time to bring it all down and turn this country around. Anybody old enough to remember 1972 and the gas rationing and the pumped up prices that was going on at that time is likely to remember the truck stoppage of that time and how the truck drivers put an end to all that bullshit right then and there. Well, I'll tell you what, I believe they're the ones who could do it for us again. I call on my brother truckers out there to go ahead and get ready to do another truck stoppage, November 5th at midnight. Wherever you are, stop your trucks. And if you can by any chance happen to be on the 495 surrounding Washington, D.C., I say we shut them down and we close it in and we take that city just like God took it over with a 30-inch snowstorm and shut down the federal government for 10 days in 2010. It's time, my friends. It is half past time in all reality. If we could do that, we could perhaps force a recall of this election. Because, of course, people won't be able to get out and go vote if they can't get no fuel in their vehicles now, can they? I don't think they can. And I'm thinking that'd be the most beautiful end to this BS freight train load of bullshit they've been running full steam ahead of us. The one that we know is about to go careening into a horrific kind of accident that you can't look away from and you don't want to see. In the United States at these times, I've been getting a lot of trouble for saying these things. Is that right? Is that any part of my Bill of Rights? I should be able to speak out against this government. I should be able to talk to my fellow citizens and plan on convening our constitutional convention, not to mention getting rid of the government we got, because guess what? They are a despotic regime. And where do they think they get the right to stop me? Do they think God gives it to them? I don't think so. But I know God gave me my rights. Those to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And hey guys, I don't know about you, but I haven't been happy in a whole long time. Right in the area that I grew up in and came from right now, there are, in a matter of a week's time, been 5 suicides. 5 suicides. We're talking in like a 2-county area. And that's just that I know of people that I know or people that my sister knows. Okay? What is that telling you? In desperate times, desperate people do desperate things. Do you want to be pushed into that by a despotic regime? I don't. But believe me, they want you to be. They want you to be able to not know which way to turn, to not know which way the winds of change are going to turn, to not know which way the tides are going to turn, and to have nowhere else to turn but to take your own life. It's a horrendous thing. A very horrendous thing that this government has pushed us to. And if any one of them tell you that they care about you, or they care about what's going on out here, and whether or not that when you get to a gas station at the end of the day, after working hard all day to raise gross national product and lower that national debt, you ain't doing nothing but getting lied to. I got news for you. Because any one of them, including Romney who's now running for government, he's running for president of these United States. He's trying to tell you he cares a thing or two about you. Well, honey, you're in government now. You've been in government for some time. And I'm going to tell you what. A long time now, I've been thinking that if they just removed the federal excise taxes from our fuel, we would be able to afford to go to work. I recently read online an article that states that the government is actually taking more profit with their excise taxes than the fuel companies. Now that's kind of crazy, if you ask me. Not only are we talking about altering and abolishing when we go ahead and talk about convening constitutional convention and the alteration and the abolition of the Federal Reserve, but we're talking about altering a few other things too. If you go ahead and you Google Constitutional Convention, you look it up on Wikipedia, you're going to find out a few things. One of them being that the Founding Fathers, when they first convened the very first, and only, I might add, Constitutional Convention that this nation has ever known, they went into it without quite knowing how they're going to divide the executive powers. But they thought to divide those executive powers between 3 persons, or invest the power into a single president, and how to elect that president, and how long a term he was to have, and whether he should stand for re-election, and what offenses should be impeachable. Those were the real big concerns, okay? Now the delegates couldn't agree on whether the executive should be a single person or a board of 3, what I like to call a primary presidential party. Many supported the division of executive power between 3 persons in order to limit the executive power, and because of widespread concern that a single executive would only represent the interests of his region, or whatever purpose it is he needs to serve, like the Federal Reserve. And because of the widespread concern that a single executive would only represent the interests of his region, some wanted there to be 3 to represent the interests of separate regions. Okay? Well, I'm thinking 3 people in the executive power to represent interests of different regions. I advocate fully that we should right the wrong that was committed a long time ago, and that we should reunite the United States as an entire nation. Our American Indian nation and the United States should create the United States. It shouldn't be separate nations, because united we stand and divided we fall. And through all of this, have they really benefited at all in not being a part of our nation? No. Their main concern and main interest is that the people who are in government will not serve their interests. Back to that regional thing, aren't we? Well, there you go. This is why, when I sat down and I tried to consider how it would be done, I came up with the idea, as I said, of reuniting the United States with the American Indian nation. And I'm thinking one of those delegates for that primary presidential party, and of course, by the way, we have to have a secondary presidential party as well because, well, hell, we ain't going to have the vice president no more either. Right? Well, and what I'm thinking is one person on each of those parties should be elected by the Indians of the Indian nation. Well, of course, they'll all now be part of the American United States nation. However, the Indians, who are documented, Native Americans, would be the ones who would be able to vote in that election and elect an Indian delegate. All right, that's not a bad thought, is it? Then how about this? How about the second delegate could be elected from the popular vote of those people who choose to vote in your primary party election? Which basically, when you think about it, the election we have, third parties haven't got an eyeball's chance in hell in them. Now have they? They really haven't. So why keep having an election that goes on to purport that they do when they really just don't? Now do they? Let's have an election of the popular vote of the people who want to be either aligned with, and one would think I was about to say Republican and Democratic parties, but guess what? Their charters are going to need to be revoked during the Constitutional Convention. And no joking, they will be put aside. Because all this time, through everything we've been through, 9/11, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, the current Democratic Party having usurped the office of presidency for a foreign national. Oh, what is she talking about? Don't act like you don't know. Okay? And besides that, both of those parties been serving the Federal Reserve, so no longer do they deserve to hold those positions. So I say we go ahead and we revoke their charters and we get rid of them. And we let two other parties step into place of the primary political parties. Then the third delegate would be elected of those third party candidates. Isn't this all making a whole lot of sense to you? I'm saying it does. I don't know. Again, those third-party candidates don't have a shot in hell in the regular election like we've been seeing. And none of us have a shot in hell if we think that we're going to be able to keep going on with the American nation in the direction it's heading. So people, let's get it together. There are a group of people out here, and they call themselves the adopters of the People's Declaration to revoke and abolish. There are a few people who have written declarations, much like the Proclamation of Reclamation that I read to you a little while ago. And I'm going to tell you something. They got some good things going on there. You can find them on Facebook by just going ahead and putting into your search bar, Adopters of the People's Declaration to revoke and abolish. And they have an open page there. And you'll be able to read in the Files tab all those things that they have sent, legal documents no less, to the federal government and to the governors of each state and to the AGs of each state. And I'll tell you what, because they're going along and they're trying to do it legally, they're dealing with the wrong people, because them government people, they don't do a damn thing that's legal anymore. And they don't care to hear it, apparently, because they have not responded in kind at all. So yes, it is time to alter and abolish. It is half past time to alter and abolish at that. We're in the 11th hour, people. As a matter of fact, it's only about 10 minutes till that 11th hour. Okay? If we don't do something now, how are we going to explain to our grandchildren or our great-grandchildren? Or how are our children going to explain to their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren? Well, you know, your great-granddaddy or your granddaddy or your grandmommy had a chance to do something about this so that you would be able to live in a free nation. But they were scared all to hell of change. So they couldn't and they wouldn't. And that's why you have an RFID chip implanted in you, my dear. And that's why you can't go anywhere without the government questioning why you want to be there. Yeah, that'll be the instant karma we'll be seeing, folks. If you doubt it, you just need to open your eyes and start looking around and seeing what's going on here and now. Now, the issue of 3 presidents in the executive power, or 1 president, was one of the last major issues to be resolved because they realized it was of such importance. And it was done so at the Electoral College. At that time, before the formation of modern political parties, there was widespread concern that candidates would routinely fail to secure a majority of electors in the Electoral College. Well, I'm going to tell you what, I think that Electoral College really needs to go too. I think we need to do honest counts and just count each vote. And I'm sorry, no joke. Y'all can get up every whatever day of the week that dang program is on. American Idol? I don't even watch TV, so sorry, it's hard for me to remember the name of these idiotic programs. There's that other one I don't know the name of, but it's similar to that, and everybody calls in and votes, or they text in their vote. Well, darlings, why couldn't we all register online and be able to go ahead and do that? Oh, you say because not everybody has internet access, which brings up another interesting point to me. We paid to put those satellites that our internet works upon in the air. We paid to develop the technology for it to go there. We paid to transport them there. We pay to maintain those suckers in our tax dollars all the time. So why is it we pay to go online? Can somebody please explain that to me? I, personally, would rather have free access to my government and to online internet than to have pay for health. Because I'm sorry, the government don't belong in healthcare. Why do I know that? Well, I worked there for 20 years. And in working there for that long, I worked for some of these government agencies like Medi-Cal, who let me go till they owed me $47,000 before they paid me penny one. Okay? Ask any veteran what kind of care he gets when he goes to the Veteran Administration. Stop kissing mommy, and he'll tell you, not the kind I want. So trust me, socialized medicine is not what we need. How about let's socialize on the net? I think that's a great idea. I think it makes a lot of sense too, folks. Tell you what, leave me a comment down below here and let me know what you think. I thank you for letting me talk to you for this length of time, and I do hope you heard me out, and I hope you heard the sensibility of what I've brought to you today. And I do hope if you're a truck driver, you've heard me, and you can contact me at the American Patriot Party. That's another one y'all should go ahead and look into online on Facebook. The American Patriot Party. We got some things going on there y'all will be interested in to hear. Consider joining us there, because we're all in this together. People, we don't have too long. You better get it together. Truckers, contact me at the American Patriot Party. Let's talk about putting this country right. Good night, folks.